Hi everyone, I'm Ajay. I'm a Microsoft Certified Solution Developer, and today we are going to talk about function delegate and what is the use of function delegate. So let's get started. So first of all, let's understand what is delegate. Well, delegate is a function pointer that can point to a method that has the same signature as that of the delegate, and then we can invoke that method using delegate. Well, I have already talked about delegates in general in my previous video. If some of you haven't watched that video, so I would definitely recommend watching that video first. I talked about action delegate in that video, and I also talked about delegates in general. And we use delegates to define callback methods, or maybe we can pass our methods to another methods to decide upon some strategies. And to our surprise, they are most commonly used in link projections and filter queries. So well, this is all about delegates. And well, why do we use them, or what is this function delegate? Well, function delegate is a Microsoft provided delegate that can point to a method that has 0, 1 or more input parameters, and it can point to a method that has up to that can take up to 16 input parameters, and that method can also return a value. Well, this is the main difference between function delegate and action delegate. Well, action delegate can point to any method that must return void and can take up to 16 input parameters, but in case of function delegate, that we can point to a method that can also return some value. And maybe, and in function delegate, last parameter will always be considered as the output parameter, as you can see in the signature. So in the interest of time, I have already created a console application, so let's get into that. So this is a simple console application. So first of all, let's understand how can we create a simple function delegate, and how we can point a function delegate to some function and then invoke them. So in the interest of time, I have already created some some functions, uh, some test data. So first of all, let's see. Okay, I have just created two functions. So these are just simple function addition and subtraction, and these two function takes two input parameters and also returns an integer value. Same goes for subtraction. And in while declaring function delegate, we just need to define input parameter first. Okay, now we are defining, okay, this function delegate can point to any method that can take two input parameters as integer and returns integer value, and we say, okay, let's say calculation. Now this function delegate can easily point to addition method, because this addition method takes two input parameters which are of type integer and returns integer value. So these two parameters considered as an input parameter, and this last parameter always considered as output parameter. And now we can easily call this addition method by using this delegate. And we can also just put it to console window. Give it a go. It returns 30, right? And same goes for subtraction method. We can also invoke subtraction method by pointing this delegate to subtraction method, and then we can just simply invoke this method as well. Simple. In first case it returns 30, and in second case it returns 10, right? So it's a simple function delegate wherein we created two methods, and then we pointed these two methods to our function delegate. And we can also convert these methods in a single liner. So how we can do this? We just need to, okay, let me write a one liner method. Just remove all of this code. So how to write a one liner method? So here we need to define, we need to just name. So how can we define a single liner method? So to define a single liner method, we just need to write a function like this. To write a single liner method, we just need to write a function like this. Need to define two input parameters. These are the first or second parameters, and we just need to return first addition of these two values. So we can also write a single liner. Now we can invoke this method like this. So it's taking too much time. Okay, I think we didn't put our value on console window. So let's just write it to console window. Let's give it a go. Simple 510, right? So these two parameters, well, data type of these input parameters will automatically be considered by the compiler. As you can see, int and int, these are the two input parameters, right? And we are returning integer value by by doing addition on them. So this is a simple example of a function delegate. Now to understand it in a practical manner, so let's see some more examples of it. So I have already created a class student in which we have four properties: roll number, name, age, and address. And I created a school class wherein we have lots of students. So I just, for the sake of simplicity, I just created some, test students. And well, if it would be a, a production application, then we just need to, write some kind of repository pattern through which we can inject our students, or through which we can, access our students. But for the sake of simplicity, I just put a list of students here. And let's say we have a function to search our students by their name, and we are just passing a string value, the name on which we want to perform a search, and then we are iterating through each and every students, and then we are just checking whether name contains this name or not, and then we are returning a list of students. We can, there are lots of ways to search a student. We can also use link query, and we can also declare a list of students, and then we can just start adding the students to that list, and we can return that list as well. And but I did it using yield keyword. So to see it in action, so we just need to create some objects. I have already created some class. I have already written some code. So for this, okay, I just need to declare. So I created an object programming school, and then in this, from this object, we can search our students by their name. And we also want to print all the search student on console window, and simple. So we created object of school class. In school, from that object we are calling this function to search our students, and then we are printing the students, right? We have two students from the name that goes by David. Let's see. Here you can see two students. Let's give it a go to see the output. There you have it. Now, after some days, let's say requirement changes or new requirement comes in, that our client says they want to search on our students' age, and they want to pull out the students with the age of 32. So in this case, we would end up writing another method like this: by age, and then we start passing age student dot age is double equal to age, right? So we simple. So this would be our new implementation if we got a requirement that they want to search students by their age. Let's say we want to search student by the age of 32, and let's just copy the same, invoke the method search by age, right? And let's pass 32. Give it a go. Okay, just a moment. Mhm. So let's give it a go. Now we are able to find that student as well, right? But that's not the great way to achieve the extensibility or to accommodate our new changes. Now after some days we get some new requirement wherein our clients want to search on our student addresses, on their maybe roll numbers, and maybe let's say we have 10 or 20 more properties in the student class and they want to search on some other properties as well. So that way we would end up writing more and more methods inside this class every time we get a new requirement, right? Or maybe we can decide upon writing a single method wherein we can pass single student object that we want to search, like this, search student, right? And then we can start passing the whole object of student, search student, and we can pass all the properties on which we want to make a search. Let's say we want to make a search whether student name contains this particular string, whether student is equal to this particular age, or maybe student address contains this particular address. We can start passing all these details in the student object, and we can make, we can start making search on all those properties, like student dot age if double equal to search student dot age, right? And then we can say okay, or like student dot name and name dot contains search student dot name, right? We can also achieve the same thing by writing a single method as well, right? But the problem is every time when we get new requirement, we need to we need to open this class and we need to change this method every time we get a new requirement to change the conditions here. That way we are breaking OCP principle, which is open closed principle. So instead of doing so, we can start passing a function delegate that can decide upon okay whether this student should be included in the search list or not, right? So instead of passing this student object, we can start passing a func that would take student as an input parameter and that would return boolean, okay, to tell us okay whether this student should be included in the search list or not. And we would say okay decision maker, right? And we would say okay if decision maker, yeah, this decision maker would take student, right? Student as an input parameter and would return boolean. So we are saying okay this search student method would accept a delegate that can decide upon whether a student should be included in the search results or not. So we are passing every student to this decision maker, and we just need to pass this decision maker outside of this class, and we can change as per our requirements. So let's see it in action. So okay, so okay, I'm commenting all the code that I have written till now. So let's say we are creating, first of all let's create our function delegate. Let's write our function delegate that can help us to search students by the name of David, right? So let's say okay we are writing a delegate which will accept student as an input parameter and will return boolean and search student, right? Let's write in a single line student, and we just need to write student return. And if the passed object, the type of this variable is student, maybe we can say s, right? If s dot name starts with maybe David, we should return true. So this is our function delegate that accepts student as an input parameter and returns a boolean value. So this s is the student type. So we say okay if s dot name starts with David, then we return true, right? Now let's create an object of this school class, and then in this programming school we have a method search student, and it accepts a func, right? Func of that accept student or pass boolean, returns boolean, right? So this is a perfect candidate and we can pass it to this method. Now we can hold all the students inside a variable, and we can just iterate through them. Let's see. Hey, it's working, right? It's working. So we found all the students, their name starts with David. Now, if a new requirement comes in after some days, or maybe in some part of our application, we decide to pull only students by the name of, whose name starts with David, and in some part of application, we decide to pull students by their age, if their age is equal to 32, right? So we can write another func, and in this func, we are saying, okay, if s dot age is equal to 32, then return only true. Search student by age, and then we just need to invoke the same method, but we are passing a different func delegate now. So we don't need to change the same method, we just need to pass another func delegate outside this class, and we are good to accommodate any changes. There you have it. So in this case, we don't need to change our class again and again, and if you want to make a search on both name, age and address, we just might need to write another func delegate which goes like s dot if s dot name contains, contains David, or s dot age is equal to 32, or maybe s dot address dot contain something like this. Simple. Search student by age, address and name, and let's just pass it. And we can just iterate through all the objects. So function delegate can help us writing, avoiding or changing our class again and again when we get new requirements, so we can easily accommodate our new requirements by using function delegates. So I think that's all for this video that I had for you. Thank you. Bye bye.